Yo, what's up guys, GeniusX here, and welcome back to NPL Minor Season 5 Power Rankings. And today me and BM will be doing the Week 10 Power Ranking, so go ahead and say hi.
Hey guys, BM here, and today we're going to be covering the last week of the regular season for Minors and Power Rankings. So let's just hop straight into it now. First, we're going to talk about my number 16 and your number 15, the Jersey Weavals and Cloud Envy. Now, unfortunately, they didn't. I don't believe they actually played this match, and obviously that would have meant that they would have uploaded this match. So I'm just going to place Cloud here because I do believe he has the worst record out of all the other teams this season with a 2-8. I do believe so. I mean, there's not really much we can talk about here. So we're going to move on to my number 15 and your number 13, Tone and his main Red Clawitzers. Now, I really liked his usage in Zoroark in this matchup against Seedon, being able to taunt things like the Clefable, being able to lure and successfully kill off the Zelf turn 1. However, I felt like certainly some of the counter plays that he made with the Zoroark early game was unfortunate. I do also think it was really sad on his part that he did miss that Fire Blast. However, I don't think that actually mattered in terms of whether the Mew swept or not, because of the fact that the Bullet Punch Mega Scissor were still there in the back. However, he didn't really play the end game the best, and he sacked off things like the Mammoth Swine a bit recklessly, I feel. The Arcanine as well certainly could have been preserved, and by the end game, the Rosary basically swept past the Primarina, and the only thing Tone could have done in the end game is hope that the Rosary didn't have extra sensory or hidden power that was super effective against it, and try to step an SD. However, I don't think that Tone would have actually won, because if the Rosary still had something, probably like the Sludge Bomb, something like Ice Shard, and Bullet Punch from the Mega Scissor, probably would have been able to revenge it regardless. So decent prep and decent early game playing. However, I don't feel like Tone played this one the best in the end game.
Yeah, definitely. I do like the Dual Dance Mew this game. However, I feel like something that could have compensated for the Toxic was maybe something like a Lumberry on the Mew part to prevent it from getting something like T-Wade from the Clefable and etc., which would have actually helped him win the game. I'm not sure what his item was this match. Maybe something like Expert Bow, although I doubt it since he doesn't need the extra damage output. But the Zoroark, as you said, like being able to kill the Azelf straight away and get a Memento off on the Clefable. However, after his Mew went down, he really didn't have anything else to deal with Zedon's team. So overall, I feel like his Marina also chose to run HP Fire over something such as a Psychic for the Roserade, although I do get that HP Fire can hit the Scissor for good damage. Something like a regular stab Hydro Pump would do more to Scissor than HP Fire, or around the same, I believe. And other than that, he also revealed a really interesting Arcanine set and Fire Spin, which I'm not really sure for what purpose, because looking at Zedon's team, it doesn't really need something. It like Clefable being trapped by the Arcanine isn't that big of a threat, because as we all know, Fire Spin isn't an endless trapping move, such as something like Block or 1,000 Waves. So there really wasn't much reason for him to run Fire Spin, in my opinion. So I believe that could have been that prep could have been better as well. So overall, I felt like Tone played the early game with his Mew and Zoroark really well, but his lackluster prep is what brought him down in the late game, and he didn't manage to come back from it.
Yeah, I do agree. Moving on to my number 14 and your number 12, we have Mew and his Oklahoma City Thunders. Now, I'd just like to clarify with my power rankings, that I ranked the teams primarily based on how they've played throughout the course of the season, and more so with their overall record as opposed to Week 10, seeing as this is going to be the final week of power rankings. So that's why I have Mew down here. I believe he has the second joint worst record, along with some other teams such as Keegan's team, Uzi's team, and as we just talked about, Tone's team. But looking at the actual matchup, I thought it was a very, very good win for Mew. Being able to use the Nidoking pretty decently this matchup. A crucial point in the at the start of the game was when the Gliscor was able to chew the, I believe, Z outrage from the Zygarde, and he was able to U-turn out on that and bring his Keldeo, which really threatened Keegan's team quite a lot. And in the end, Calm Mind Keldeo did pretty decent work, and I believe he did actually end up sweeping with the Tailwind Torn Eye, which I thought was a really decent bring up against Keegan's team, considering Keegan's been known to bring Tailwind on a Skarmy, which he actually did bring this match, as well as counteracting something like the speed boost on the Yen Mega, which is exactly what happened. And he was able to hit all his Hurricanes this time around, which is good for Mio, and honestly, just a really good one for him.
Yeah, definitely. I really liked his use of his Tornadus. Although the only move that it revealed was Hurricane this game, so I'm not sure if it had anything to actually hit the Fortress for more than 20%. But other than that, I definitely felt like the game was really well played by Mio, being able to utilize his CM Keldeo really well, and the Tailwind on Torn. He was also able to keep Keegan's main offensive threats in check in the Entei and the Zygarde and the Medicham, having one of the most one of the best, if not the best, counters to Mega Medicham in the game right now, being the Gophagus, being able to mummy the pure power away from the Mega Medicham, and he was also able to neutralize the Entei with the Keldeo, and Zygarde with the Gliscor in combination of the Keldeo as well. So Mio was able to shut down pretty much all of the offensive percents from Keegan's side, and was able to take advantage of the fact that Keegan doesn't really have a flying resist or immunity, as we saw in previous games, such as Keegan struggled with the Torn T against John W. But as we said, Keegan doesn't really have any flying resists or immunity that isn't weak to such a coverage move such as Heat Wave. Or in Fortress's case, I think something like Iron Tail would have done huge damage to it as well. So Mio definitely capitalized on that greatly, and he was also able to bait out kill the Skarm and weaken the Fortress very early into the game. So he was able to use Keldeo and Torn to pick up and clean up the end game.
Yeah, I do agree. One thing I'd just like to point out is I believe I watched Keegan send this match actually, and apparently the Entei wasn't actually EV'd. It only had Sacred Fire and Flame Plate. I'm not actually sure if that was the actual case in the match, because that's what he shut off in his team builder. But if it was the case, then something like Entei in the end game, when Mio switched in his Keldeo, could have certainly pressured Mio's team quite a lot. However, Mio was just lucked out at that point in that one instance. But again, he did play this match really, really well. And speaking of Keegan, we will move on to
Keegan had like a. Oh, sorry about that. But I was gonna say, if Keegan had extreme speed on his Entei, then this game could have been different, because he would have been able to pick off the Keldeo later into the game when it was low on health.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
I
put
do
that
agree.
in there.
I mean, there isn't really much that Mio could have done in that situation. He could have probably sacked something off and then gone into his Keldeo to potentially revenge. However, speaking of Keegan, we are finally going to move on to my number 13 and your number 11, and that is going to be Keegan and his Olympic flag on. Now, I do believe that Keegan throughout the course of the season has been a bit more consistent than the likes of Mio, and Mio and Tone, and definitely Cloud as well. However, he didn't really play this match too well. The Tailwind on the Skarm was really decent. The Zygarde was used decently in this match. However, I do think that he could have probably, if he was Dragon Dance, he could have probably set up the Dragon Dance in the late game and not pop off the Z Outrage so early on. He didn't really have much to do with the Keldeo as well. However, he was able to chip down pretty decently with the 1,000 arrows and extreme speed chip from the Zygarde. It's a bit unfortunate about the Entei in the actual match, because he would have been able to pick off the Keldeo. However, I mean, there's really nothing I can say about that. And in the end, he didn't really have much in the end game for the Torn Eye once the Fortress was gone. And honestly, decent prep, but not the best play from Keegan.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like Keegan's prep was also kind of lackluster as well, because knowing that Mio has a Cophagus and is most likely going to bring it vs of such physically offensive threats such as Medicham and Zygarde, I don't think he actually had a way to deal with the Cophagus that easily, because his Medicham didn't reveal something like Toxic, and neither did something like Zygarde would have dealt with a Fist of Cofagrigus easily if it carried something like Haze or HP Ice or something along those lines. And he also let his Fortress get weakened really early into the game, which was pretty much his primary check to the Torn Key. He kind of let it took a Sludge Wave pretty unnecessarily from the Needle King, and he didn't protect furthermore to heal it back up to full, where something like Skarmory was pretty expendable at that point in the game. So overall, there isn't really much to say about this game. I feel like he can definitely dropped off in terms of his prep and his play this week compared to his last few weeks. So hopefully he can bring it back next season and then have show us a better performance next season as well.
Yeah, I do believe that. I do share that sentiment. I do believe Keegan could definitely perform better next season. But we're gonna move on to my number 11, your number 14, Illusion and his Las Vegas Venusaurs. Now he was meant to play Cloud Envy and his Jersey Revals this week. But unfortunately, again, I don't think they actually scheduled and played the match because I don't think there were any uploads from their side of the match for this week as well. And I do believe that Illusion has been playing decently throughout the course of the season. However, he's been very up and down for me. He hasn't totally been too consistent. I've been liking some of his prep and some of his play. However, in some of the crucial matches where he's had to really show up, I don't think he's been able to pull out top drawer performances in order to potentially differentiate himself from the middle of the pack. And that's why I'm at number 11.
Yeah, so definitely I feel like Illusion could have played and prepped better this season. And I did see him complaining about most of his draft a few days ago, saying that everything on his draft did pretty shit this season except for the Infinite and the Tapu Koko, which I can somewhat agree with, considering he did try to draft some new stuff compared to what he usually drafts. But ultimately, I feel like he definitely could have performed better this season. I did like some of his prep, as you said, but he didn't really stand out in terms of his play. And we all know that Johnning is unacceptable in NPL, so that's why I put him at 14 this week. So
that's fair enough. But moving on to I believe we'll go with the Bullet Punch Club. Sorry, Uzi's at number 12 for me, and Uzi's at number 9 for you. Now this is another really good top drawer performance from Uzi in general. I believe all of his wins this season, despite going, I believe 3-7, have been up against top drawer players. Jake, for example, who's in playoffs. Hykertoad, who's also in playoffs, and Techno, who's already in the championship game. I believe he was the only W or the only L that Techno got this season. But again, really good aggressive playing from Uzi. This match, Palisand really coming in clutch, being able to soft check the Zard X, being able to completely counter the Terrakion just because of its typing as well, and certainly being able to use the Z Curum Black as well, being able to bluff things like the Z Fusion Volt up against the Celesteela and pick up a nice kill up against the Rotom Wash, which would have certainly prevented stuff like the Palisand from really doing well towards the end game and preventing it from being able to wall out the rest of Hiker's team. However, this is really good play from Uzi in general, and while Uzi has been very a bit inconsistent, not being able to pick up wins up against what you would classify as lesser opponents, I do believe up against the top drawer sides, he's been able to pull out really decent wins and really good W's. There's been a bit of a hacks in some of his matches, and his prep sometimes has been a bit lackluster, but overall I think there's a really decent showing for Uzi if you look at his wins, but if you look at his losses, I don't feel like it's been the best for him.
yeah, definitely. Uzi definitely surprised everyone. This was like probably one of the more unexpected wins of this week and this season, most likely.
Yeah, I do agree.
And definitely knowing that Hiker didn't actually prep for Palosan at all, pretty much this game, because we all know that Hiker is a fucking retard and doesn't prep for lower tier mons. So Palosan kind of just destroyed Hiker this week, and he definitely utilized it really well. And looking at the bulky nature of Hiker's team as well, he was able to bluff the Curum and bring it in on slow mons such as the Rotom to deal huge damage to Hiker's team. Not only this, as you said, Uzi definitely picked up some really nice wins this season against Jake, Hiker, and Techno. And as we both know, these three are really good players, and they used to be on a team together called the Vesicles. So definitely, Uzi definitely surprised everyone by just completely destroying these three talented draft players. So other than that, Uzi, as you said, wasn't too consistent in the rest of his performance. However, I do like how he played this weekend, and I felt like he would definitely be having a better performance in next season compared to this season.
Just to clarify, I don't think Uzi is returning for next season. Because of IRL issues, mainly just his college. However, he did say that he could potentially return for season 7, which will be the season after the upcoming one. So we wish Uzi and all his endeavors in real life and in Pokemon. And moving on to number 10, now we have Carny, Hobo, and his Vancouver Stealth Rocks. Now, again, they didn't play this week because Owen actually ended up forfeiting his matchup against Carny, which does leave Carny at a 5-5 record. Now, that's pretty decent for a man that's been able to use Alolan Dugtrio to its fullest extent. I believe it went 13-1. That's really good for I think that was a 4 or 5 pointer, and in general just a really bad Mon. But honestly, I would have Carny up like probably number 1 if he actually got Alolan Dugtrio to that MVP winner spot. But overall, decent season from Carny. Some of his losses have been really poor. Some of his wins have also been partially down to hacks. And again, it's just been really inconsistent. However, the times when he's picked up those wins, he's been able to use, again, Alolan Dugtrio very decently. And I do think that there is room for improvement for him definitely this season. And if he drafts Alolan Dugtrio next season, I'm expecting him to be in the MVP race once again.
Yeah, definitely. Carney's use of Alolan Dugtrio this season was absolutely phenomenal. I never really expected mons such as Alolan Dugtrio to do this well in such a prestigious draft league. But Carney definitely surprised everyone with his Alolan Dugtrio pick. And I definitely got to give props to this man for utilizing such a mon this well this season. So props to him for that. Other than that, he definitely had a few moments this season where he shined a lot, such as the match with Mio, where he pretty much just 6-0 with Alolan Dugtrio, and the match with Zeden was the Focus Blast prediction on the Weavile, which I found was just a magnificent play. Probably one of the best plays this season, in my opinion. So, Carney definitely had his moments, and definitely wish him luck, and hopefully he manages to get into playoffs next season.
Hopefully. Now moving on to your number 8, I believe, and my number 9, we have Owen and his Leinster Latias. Now, again, they didn't actually end up playing Carny this week, and he took the forfeit, basically. And he's retiring from Pokemon, so again, we do wish him luck in whatever future endeavors he wants to pursue. However, this season, I think, has been actually a really decent one from Owen, because if you look at his draft, it's very unorthodox, because half of it's quite decent offense, but the other half, you'd say, are pretty decent stall Pokemon. You think the likes of Tangrowth, Alomomola, Mandibuzz, Aromatisse, or Idon, they can all fit on some stall builds pretty decently, although they won't be able to roll compress all of the rolls that stall needs. And then if you look at his offense, things like Mega Diancie, Victini, Jolteon. So it's very, I'd say, lopsided draft from him, but he was able to utilize it amazingly. He had some really good matches as well. He also had some moments where his spat let him down in some instances, where the opponent was able to bring Pokemon that were able to check his offense, and also bring some other Pokemon that was able to completely annihilate his spat, such as things like potentially the Calmine Sylveon, for example, is a key one that I'm remembering right now. I'm not sure if there's anything else. I'm pretty sure there's 1 or 2 more instances. But overall, just a pretty decent showing from Owen. It's unfortunate that he is going to be retiring this season. And again, we do wish him luck in whatever he wants to pursue in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Owen played a really nice season, and it is unfortunate that he decides to quit Mons due to IRL issues, and the fact that Mons is such a RNG based game. and he didn't feel like putting in effort into the game anymore. But other than that, I really did like some of his offensive preps this season, with the main one coming to mind being the Z Synchronize Jolteon to deal with Techno's Mega Venusaur. Um, just things like that, creative sets like that, is what really makes me like watching Owen play. And it is really unfortunate that he's gonna have to leave us and quit Pokemon and NPL. So, do definitely wish him luck, and go check his channel out as well, because he will be posting a more detailed video on why he decided to leave Mons. So definitely go check him out, and he played a really nice season in NPL.
Yeah, nothing more to say from there for Owen. But moving on to my number 8 and your number 7. Finally, to a team that actually played their match this week, we have Turkey and his Kinetic Gabalions, I do believe. No, IA. Sorry, IA and his Kinetic Gabalions. I'm not actually sure if they played this week.
They did. They played Turbo.
Yeah. Sorry, that was just a brain fart on me. But oh yeah, I do remember this match. It was pretty decent showing from IA, being able to utilize the Latios. It was unfortunate in some instances that he wasn't able to win the speed tie up against it. However, say for example, in the match, I believe he set up way too early on with his Linoon. Because things like I don't think he would have expected it, but Haze Vinny would have certainly been an option that I would have seen in prep, and that's what actually ended up happening. However, he was able to lure the Feeny, and I believe the Latios from there was able to just sweep, because there was Calm Mind, Roost, Bolt Beam, which was a really, really good setup against Turbo, because if you look at Turbo's team, the only thing that can really take that on was the Nihilego, which he killed off, I believe, turn 2, and the Heatran, which was Scarf, and a Scarf Heatran, unless it's running Toxic, is never beating Calm Mind Lottie 1v1. So, really decent showing from IA this season. Again, like Owen, I think it's a really decent showing for him. There is obviously room for improvement. He didn't make playoffs this season. However, I do believe if he plays a bit more aggressively, if he preps a bit better, I think he can probably make a pretty decent push for playoffs next season.
Yeah, definitely. I is probably one of the best players I know in this the draft league community. So definitely was a surprise that he didn't make playoffs. But as you said, definitely had a really good showing, especially later into the season. He didn't start off really well, did get hacked a few games, and wasn't performing the best. But he managed to pick it up later in the season, and this weekend just showed it. And I feel like if he continues this momentum, he's definitely going to be able to make playoffs next season if he decides to join back minors, which I do believe he will do. As for during the game vs Turbo, I do believe he played pretty phenomenally, except for the setting up with the lining on the Feeny, and being able to go for the Gigavolt Havoc on Feeny was such a good prep and such a good play, not letting Turbo catch it, because there was also definitely the possibility that Turbo could have gone the Crocodile to scout for the Gigavolt Havoc, but he was able to prevent that from happening. And other than that, there really isn't much to say. It was really funny how I did lose 6 speed ties in a row and won the one that mattered the most in terms of, well, won the one that won him the game pretty much. So that was really pretty funny to see. But other than that, I don't think that Turbo prepped for the CM Ladi very well this game, and I do believe that I noticed that and utilized that and managed to clean the game with Ladi. So overall, really good showing by I, and I do want to see what he can do next season, because I do believe he is one of the most solid preppers and battlers so far in the draft community.
Yeah, I do believe with a bit of luck and a bit more effort into the matches, certainly I can definitely make up for playoffs and hopefully get into majors the season after next. But moving on from there, we have the Toronto Lux Race and Turkey. Turk's my number 7, and he's GeniusX's number 6. Now, Turk has had a really decent season, in my opinion. His draft, with I believe Dual Genies, was really, really interesting. He's been able to utilize them amazingly. I feel some of his losses have been a bit shaky. I think he's lost once or twice down to hacks. I'm not entirely sure about that, but for the most part, his wins have been very, very convincing, and I did believe he could potentially make playoffs if he won up against Techno in the final match, considering some of the top teams they dropped their matches this week. They didn't perform the best, that is, and they lost up against some of their opponents. However, in this match up against Techno, I felt like he played all right. I do think that getting his what's it called, the Silvally water chip down a bit for the Darmanitan, the end game could have certainly been something you didn't want to something that was really detrimental for him, considering Darmanitan, if you look at his team from face value, really threatens his team because Guja doesn't appreciate taking hits. Bronzong, Breloom, Swellow don't appreciate taking hits. The only thing that can take a hit would probably be the Avalug, but again, that is an ice type, so it probably isn't going to be the best Darmanitan switch in. And really, just decent prep and decent play. Well, not decent play, but really good play throughout the course of the season. But just this match wasn't the most convincing on his part.
Yeah, definitely. Everybody knows that Turk has absolutely no guap, so it's definitely a surprise that he did pretty well this season. So, to the actual game, I feel like Turk definitely played this one not that well compared to what his performance was in the first 9 weeks. Because if you look at the matchup, in my opinion, something like a Swellow could have done huge damage to Techno's team once rocks were up. Because I don't think Facade probably does a huge amount of damage, or even Boom Burst, depending on his set, to the Zapdos. Because if you look at Techno's team, he doesn't have a Boom Burst resist other than the Lightning Rock. And that means that he is more inclined to go something like Spadef Zapdos just to be able to tank a Boom Burst relatively well. And due to that, Turk can have the option to bring something like a physical Swallow with Guts Flame Orb and use the Spadef Zapdos to its advantage by going for a boosted Facade and killing the Zapdos after rocks. And I do believe that if he did manage to pull that off, it would have turned the game on the tide, because Swallow was such a huge threat to Techno's team. The only one that's able to revenge being possibly the Scarfed Arm or the SL Lightning Rock. So the fact that he went for a non-boosted Facade on the Greninja and just sacking off his Swallow was absolutely was not a very good play in my opinion, because I felt like that was one of his most reliable wall breakers. And with that gone, he had no way to really deal with stuff such as the Venusaur or even the Gudra, not Gudra, the Sylveon. So that was definitely a huge choke / misplay on Turk's part. And other than that, I felt Turk definitely did play decently this season. But of course, we know that Turk is one of the more unstable players, having no guap after all. So definitely will be interested to see how he does next season, and hopefully he makes playoffs like this one. I believe he made playoffs, right?
No, he didn't actually end up making playoffs. I believe it's because of his differential. I do believe because
John made playoffs over him. So
yeah. It's been
unfortunate for Turk, but hopefully he does make playoffs next season, because he has been playing decently well early and mid season. And I don't believe that this performance vs Techno is the best that he can do. So do look forward to what he can do in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. However, moving on to my number 6 and your number 5, we have John W. and his Indiana Keldios. They did take on Jake and his Tech Frokies this match, and I really liked his utilization of Rain, as well as really just Rain in general, being able to set up the Rain for things like the Torn T, for example, which really threatened Jake's team because he didn't have the sturdiest flying resist. His flying resist in this match being the Jirachi and the Rotom regular form, as well as setting the Rain up for something like potential SD Kabutops to sweep in the late game. Being able to boost things like Scald from his Pelipper as well was something really key. And he also utilized Mega Gallade really well in this matchup, being able to gain a lot of offensive momentum up against Jake's team. Because if you look at his team, Jake didn't have anything that was able to outspeed the Mega Gallade. His fastest Pokemon being, I believe, the Garchomp at 102, and obviously Mega Gallade outspeeds Garchomp because of its higher base speed stat. But just really good showing from John W. in general, and I do believe that is the same case with his showing this season as well. It's just been a really good showing, really convincing play, especially with the likes of his Torn T and Diggersby as well. I thought he was able to utilize Diggersby really well in certain matchups, especially that matchup against Carny, where I believe it basically picked up like 3 or 4 kills in like the first 5 turns of the match. But just in general, just really, really good play from John W. And I do believe he is actually in playoffs. One of the, I believe, 3rd or 4th seed. So good luck to him in playoffs.
Oh yeah, definitely. I felt like John definitely didn't start off very well this season, but picked it up later into the season and managed to surprise everyone with his unorthodox draft because Pocket Rain isn't very. It's a pretty popular draft style among many coaches in other leagues as well, and he really just showed how certain it can be in both prep and play. So definitely congratulations to him for making playoffs, and I do believe in this game against Jake, he was able to utilize Diggersby, as you said, extremely well as well, and not getting powered from the Jirachi was a bit kind of lucky, I guess, in a sense. But he was able to utilize the Rain and the Torn-T very well, knowing that Jake didn't have a Hurricane resist that is resists Dark, so Dark Post basically, and he was able to use Diggersby to clean up relatively easily. So overall, very well played season by John, and I do look forward to what he is able to do in the future and in playoffs as well. And I do believe his round 1 matchup is against Hiker Toad. So definitely, they're going to be an interesting game. I know they have been friends for. They probably have been friends for a few years now because they were the first people that they met each other in the community. So definitely going to be looking forward to how that match goes out.
Certainly, that underlying storyline with that matchup is going to be very interesting to look at. However, speaking of Jake, at my number 5, sorry, and at your number 4, we have the Virginia Tech Frokies and Jake. Now, I do believe Jake this season has been performing pretty decently as well. Again, another team in the playoffs. I believe he has. I believe he's number 2 in terms of seeding, in terms of the regular playoffs. But this match wasn't really the best showing from his part. Despite having things like the Shaman and the Quillfish, he wasn't able to deal with the likes of the Torn T, for example, and just the Raincore in general, because of the nature of the likes of the Mega Gallade, as well as the Diggersby, and even the Torn T. Some of his defensive threats up against John's teams, like say for example the Shaman, which would in theory be able to check the likes of the Raincore and the Diggersby pretty well. They just got overwhelmed throughout the course of the match just because, again, of the Mega Gallade, of the Torn T, and in the end, Jake didn't really have any say in the end game. He basically kind of just lost this, and it was a really, really poor showing from him. However, I do think apart from this match, and he went up against Uzi, it's generally been a very, very good season on Jake's part. And again, he is in playoffs, and we wish him good luck in playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like Jake knew that he would have made playoffs whether he lost or won this game, so I'm not sure if he went all out during prep and play for this match. But however, as you said, he definitely could have prepped and played better in this match. However, overall in the season, I do feel like Jake played really well against formidable opponents such as Turbo and opponents like I. So overall, really, really well prepped season by Jake. We really saw how his prep shines through this season with stuff such as the World Cup Surf Mega Kangaskhan for Donphan, Weakness Policy Jirachi vs Turbo, etc., etc. Overall, I feel like Jake is a really, really good prepper and a decent battler as well. So he was able to show that really well this season, and I do feel like he would definitely be performing better in playoffs compared to what he did this game, since I don't think he put that much effort into this game compared to all his other games.
Yeah, I do agree, and certainly another team to look out for in playoffs. But speaking of another playoffs team, we are going to move to my number 4 and your number 3, which is it's Turbo and it's Phoenix Midnights. Now, I think this season has been a bit inconsistent for Turbo. If you look at some of the other teams he's facing off with, especially the likes of Techno Hiker, Zedon. For example, I don't think he's been as consistent as them. I think some of his losses in this season have been a bit poor. However, his wins up against some of the other teams, I do think, certainly have been pretty decent. However, speaking of poor losses, I don't think that this is a really good showing from Turbos. And the Calm Mind Mega Latios, I do believe, was interesting. And winning all those speed ties up against IA's regular Latios certainly threw him a bit in terms of a loop because he didn't actually know that that was a speed tie up until towards the end of the match. I do think he did say in his commentary that he should have switched out the Feeny when I went for the Gigavolt Havoc, and I do believe he should have made that play just because he would have preserved the Speedy, which did a lot up against the rest of II's team because Aselgor isn't touching it too heavily apart from maybe Sledge Bomb or Energy Ball. It can sponge a hit from Mega Aerodactyl. It can potentially sponge -2 Volt Switch as well from the Rotom Heat. But again, not really the best showing in this match. Even in the end game, he didn't really have much counterplay towards the Calm Mind Latios, and it was a bit unfortunate that he did lose one of the few speed ties that have actually mattered in that instance. But in all fairness, he did win quite a lot of the first few speed ties, and honestly, a pretty decent showing from Turbo this season. Again, he is in playoffs. I do believe the championship game to make the first automatic seed for promotion into the majors. And it's been alright of a showing. Again, I don't feel like he's been as consistent as some of the teams around him. However, he's done enough to get himself into that playoffs position.
Yeah, definitely. I felt like Turbo played a really good early season. Being able to pick up a lot of wins in the early season against opponents such as Mio and John W. And this match in particular, I don't think was Turbo's best showing, as you said. I don't think he really prepped for CM Latios at all, in fact. And one of the favorite moments for me of this game is when Turbo typed in chat saying that Feeny is so good, definitely a surprise of the season for him. And it just ended up getting destroyed by Gigavolt Havoc a few seconds after, so that was pretty funny to see. But as you said, he definitely should have scouted for the Z move on the Latios because it would be one of the best ways for CM Latios to deal with the Feeny was Thunderbolt or Energy Ball, and in this case, it's most likely going to be T-Bolt because of his Heatran for damage as well. So he definitely could have scouted for that with something like Superior or Crocodile. Other than that, I don't think he really prepped for the Latios at all. He did win 6 speed ties in a row, so can't really justify the fact that he lost a important one. Considering if II won any, there was 2 more I won a speed tie in the first 6, he would have still killed the Latios. So I'm not sure how the game would have went if Turbo kept on winning the speed ties. But overall, I don't feel like Turbo played really well this game, but he is definitely still in the championship game. So definitely excited to see what he can whip up vs Techno because he did lose the first match vs Techno. So he definitely has revenge in his eyes, and I do look forward to what he can bring and play in that match.
Certainly. Now moving on to my number 3 and your number 1, we have Lord Zedon and his Tulsa X controllers. Now I do think that Zedon did play this week's match pretty decently. In some parts of it, but in some other parts of it, say for example the Self turn 1, I don't think that was the best play that he could have made. He did pretty decently to what's it called? To get himself out of the situation with the dual dance Mew. However, I do think he could have certainly played around the dual dance Mew a bit better in order to not get himself into that position where he had to struggle up against it. And once he was able to get the Mew revenge, with a bit of luck from the Fire Blast miss, I do think that he played the end game really well, especially his Roserade, being able to keep up a lot of offensive momentum because at that point Roserade, I believe, could one-hit KO everything on Tone's team apart from the Arcanine, and he was able to snag that kill up against the Arcanine, so he was able to clean up in the end game with Roserade. And I do believe that Zedon's been playing this season quite well. I do think that 1 or 2 losses on his side were a bit unexpected. Like say for example the Carny loss up against a Low and Doug trio. A Low and Doug trio is power, but at that point Zedon just didn't in that match. I feel he didn't really showcase his fullest potential. But for the most part, I think he's been really consistent. Again, just one or two small losses here and there, I think is what's marred his season a little bit. However, I do think going into playoffs, he is coming in with a lot of momentum. I believe he's won his last 2 or 3 games in a row, so certainly he will be looking to push for that other automatic promotion spot.
Yeah, definitely. Zedon has been playing really well this season, apart from a few games. I feel like the nature of his draft just allows him to do this. He has a really solid defensive and offensive core, and this game via Stone showed that even though he was getting put down early game by the Zorak and the Mew, was able to come back really easily with the Roserade, Landorus, and Weavile and Scizor. So overall, I feel like Zedon's being played really well this season, and I do believe that he has the potential to win the second automatic promotion spot, which is why I put him at first this week. So looking forward to what he can do in the playoffs.
Certainly, I do agree. Playoffs is shaping up to be really cool. Well, not cool, but really tense affair. But moving on to, I believe, both of our number 2s. Finally, this time we have Cane Toad and his Boston Bulldors. Now, this matchup against Uzi certainly wasn't the best that Hiker could have played. He didn't really prep much for the Palossand. Well, he didn't really prep much at all. He had the likes of the Celesteela and the Rotom Boss that could potentially pressured it. However, he played this one, I feel, a little bit too passively to the point where Uzi took advantage of that. I do think that some of his prep in this match was pretty decent as well. I do believe that was Nasty Plot. Nasty Plot 3 attacks Alolan Persian, which would have won in the end game if he preserved it. However, I do believe he did sack it off to a Stone Edge from the Scarftar. Really, apart from this match, just apart from this match, I feel like Hiker's been playing really well this season. If you take away this match, I do believe he would have been an 8-1 record, and his only other loss would have been to Techno, who is the best team in terms of his record and his differential. But again, just really poor showing from Hiker this match. I would have expected Hiker to have done a lot better. But in general, I do think despite this loss, he still is going into playoffs with a lot of good momentum. I believe he's won his last 4 or 5 as well on the bounce, which is going to be really good for him. He just needs to ensure that his loss up against Uzi doesn't play in his mind too much. And I do believe that he definitely is, I think, my favorite for the second playoff spot. The second promotion spot, that is.
Yeah, so I do believe there is a typo. I do believe I want to put Hiker number 17s this week after Techno, of course, on number 16 because he played game this week, I believe. Not prepping for the Palossand at all and playing as passively as well. So we all know that Hiker is a basic ass player, and there's really nothing more to say. Even though he's been playing pretty decent for the rest of the season, this match really didn't show what he is able or capable of doing. So, which is why I do believe that I should probably be putting him lower this week, but he should be thanking me for putting him number 2 this week. So, other than that, as you said, there really isn't much to say about this match vs Uzi. He didn't really play well against the Kyurem, and he didn't prep for the Palossand at all, and he wasn't able to take advantage of or play that aggressively to compensate for the fact that he didn't prep for Palossand, because he was pretty much clicking close combat every time with Terrakion and just letting Palossand get in for free, so that's not something I really liked. However, he is facing John W in playoffs, and as we all know, he did win against John week 1. So I do believe he has a chance to auto-promote, but knowing Hiker, he's probably just gonna luck his way throughout the playoffs again, because we all know Hiker is probably one of the most luckiest player in all of Draft League. So definitely has a chance to make the promotion spot with hacks. But other than that, he's been playing okay this season. He did end up with a 8-2 record, with his only loss being to Techno and Palossand. So definitely interested to see what he is able to do in the playoffs, and hopefully he is able to uh, not make such big mistakes during prep in the future again, especially during playoffs.
Knowing Hiker, he'll probably get to the finals of playoffs and then probably lose to a choke or a misprep on his part. But moving on to my number one and your number 16, we have Techno and his Carolina Pantherians. Now, overall, this season has been a really, really good showing. I think apart from his loss week 1 or week 2 to the BPC, he's just been on a roll. I think he's won his last 7 or 8 matches, which is really, really strong showing from Techno. He's been able to compensate from some of his weaknesses in drafting, like say for example, certainly a few times throughout the course of the matches throughout the season. Things like physical fires have been giving him a lot of annoyance, with really his fire resist being Greninja, Lycanroc, and Darmanitan, which aren't, again, the best fire resist. But just his prep and his play has been really, really good this season. There has been a few moments, one-off moments, I feel, that he could have played or prepped a bit better. Like, say, for example, the Desynchronoise Jolteon up against the Mega Venusaur. That was certainly a key moment that I'd remember from this season as being a bad one. But for the most part, Techno's been playing this one really well. And in his matchup against Turkey, he showcased again. He was able to get down quite a lot of things up against Turk's team and ensure that his Darmanitan was able to win in the end game. And being able to utilize that really decent in its matchup as well. I feel like in general he's been able to use his offensive mons really good whenever they've had a really decent matchup. And just in general, I think he's gonna win the championship game and probably get promoted to majors on his first try in terms of the championship game, that is. And overall, yeah, again, just he's going into playoffs, really, really good momentum, really, really good prep, really good play, and there's not much to criticize, at least I feel, in regards to how he's done this season.
Yeah, so definitely Techno ended with a really good record, being 9-1, but I'm gonna have to give Techno a L this week for being such a bitch and not being able to 6-0 the neck. So that's gonna make me put him at 16 this week against the Carolina Pantherians. But other than that, he has been playing really well this season. His match vs Turk definitely could have gone better for him. He was able to whittle down Turk's majority of the mon really well, but he also did capitalize on Turk's misplay with the Swallow. But overall, as you said, Techno has been playing great, and with the exception of his loss to Uzi, he has been pretty much just dominant in all of his matches. And I do believe that he is going to promote, as you said, being able to beat Turbo in the championship game. But other than that, this week, not only not being able to 6-0 Turk, he also took a huge loss in LD Survivor, so that's why I'm going to have to put him at 16th this week. But yeah, that is going to bring us to an end for the last power rankings for the NPL Minors Season 5. So definitely give us some opinions on what you saw of me and BM's power rankings.
Especially this week.
Of course, this being our first season. So, and it's not, we might be changed to different analyst work next season as well instead of PRs. We never know. But definitely do give us some opinions on how we did. We definitely do appreciate all of it. And with this, the playoff matches are also settled. I do believe round 1 is Jake vs Zeden and Hypertoad vs John W, with the championship game being Techno vs Turbo. So definitely keep your eye peeled out for that, and go check out all the coaches in the description as well. BM, do you have anything to say?
No, not really. Again, be sure to check out all the coaches, both majors and minors. Of course, minors regular season has just ended, and playoffs are gonna start now. But be sure to also check out the majors coaches as well, because I do believe majors is still going on. I believe they're in week 8 or week 9, and again, there's a lot of teams that are still vying for playoffs and vying to avoid relegation into minors. Be also sure to check out all the analysts down in the description below. And again, this may be our final time recording together. I'm not entirely sure, because we may again be moved to different analyst work, be it majors, minors, or just one-off videos. So I'd like to thank every one of you for tuning in and supporting both the channel and this show in particular in general. Please do give us feedback on our commentary. Again, this is our first time doing this both consistently and in general. So certainly we do have areas of improvement, and I do feel that throughout the course of time we'll certainly improve in our commentary skills. And certainly with this week as well, because I felt like our commentary in this one was a bit more lax and a bit more laid back than usual. Certainly not as robotic as general. But yeah, nothing else to say apart from that.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely hope you all enjoyed this season with us and our power rankings, and hopefully we're able to see you again on this channel. Goodbye.
Bye.